Welcome to our new episode, and now we will talk about how to start your audiophile journey. This is not just for absolute beginners, but also for audiophiles who've been on the road for 10, 20, 30 years. And often you figure out that you are missing something, but you don't know what you are missing. You tried out hundreds of gear, equipment, and you still haven't found what you are looking for. Maybe here I'll give you a few pointers to help with your search. So at my starting slide I have a Donald Duck plunging into a bunch of gold, a heap of gold, and basically that's our innocent attitude towards obtaining our dream system. Basically go for the most expensive stuff on the market and throw a heap of money at it, and then you will be happy forever. And that's our belief system, and actually it's a totally flawed idea and flawed concept. It's just as flawed as you diving into a heap of gold and with a big smile on your face, and then when you land on it you find out that gold is really hard, really heavy, and it will hit you in the face, and you wake up in the reality. And for that reality, diving into audio, you really need to learn how to swim, how to dive. And like this guy here just jumping in the water with proper form. So here I'm going to give you the blueprint of how to do that. So essentially our big plan, how we all start out, is that we binge on reviews and we find which is the best equipment, product of the month, product of the year, best in category, best amplifier, best speaker, and you just try gold, right? Go from absolute zero to an absolute jazzy heaven after reading a few reviews, and that doesn't happen really. And of course we all know that audio gear are not cheap, they are really expensive. And when people are in this persuasion for a long time, for us, when you talk about a $5,000 component, that doesn't seem too much. But when you are just getting into it, that's really a lot of money to spend audio. And that's why at the beginning we all rely heavily on reviews. And then there's times when you hear reviews that, oh, check this out, I have reviewed these speakers and they go for $4.99 a pair, and they are better than most $3,000 speakers. So I tried it in my system against this pair, which is a really good speakers for $5,000, and this $4.99 sounded almost as good. I was not missing out anything. And then after hearing this review, you buy this pair of speakers and you think you will be very happy with them, just as happy as if you bought those $5,000 speakers the review was talking about. And then you want to have a good amp, so you are flipping through reviews, and then at one review you find a $50 cheap amp that the reviewer A/B tested against a $20,000 tube amplifier, and he reported that the $50 cheap amp had better bass than the $20K tube amp. Okay, amp, check out, you buy it. And then what am I missing? I'm missing the music source. Wow, some reviewer said that if you just use your laptop, that's a perfect source. Just don't plug it into the wall, so you do not inject any noise into the power line, and you just get a small portable USB, like a USB key that you just plug in your computer and stream. Bingo, you are done. and then you read some more reviews. Ooh, I need cables too, and they say power cord is bullshit, so I'm not getting any. And then you read that there was a guy who compared 5 different kinds of speaker cables in his system. The system was a $1,000 total system, and the reviewer called it a very good sounding high-end system. And he found that the Romex wire he got from Home Depot, the same stuff that runs electrical current in your wall for your AC outlets, that sounded better than the $10,000 and $20,000 speaker cables he tested. So okay, you go down to Home Depot and get a few feet of Romex wire, and then at home you put the whole things together, and you expect that you will reach audio heaven. And probably it will sound better than your iPhone did before, but you will be a little bit disappointed when you compare that against a trip down to your next high-end dealer's showroom, and you listen to that stuff, some random stuff that he has there, and you will be just scratching your head that how could I get so far off the mark? And that's because when you read the reviews, you have to apply it to your situation. In the reviews, they do not mention all the review parameters usually, and when they mention it, you have to be very careful that what are the conditions in which they test those gear. So when we look at that $499 speakers that is almost as good as a 5K speaker, then what was not implied in the review is that that experience happens when you use a system that matches that 5K speaker. So the reviewer had probably a $30,000 system, and even in that system he took out those speakers and put in those $499 speakers. It was still okay. However, if you have a $1,000 system and plop in that $499 speaker, it will not sound like a 5K speaker. It will sound like a $499 speaker. The thing is, speakers is that some of them are really scalable, so you can scale them up. So as you improve your system, the speaker can keep up with the improvements in your amplifier, improvements in your source, improvements in your cabling, and those are the ones which really get the good reviews. But it doesn't mean that when you have a speaker that get a great review, it will sound great by default. You need to match it with an amplifier that matches that speaker well, and you also need to match your speakers with your room. Speakers cannot be mentioned without mentioning your room. So speakers and rooms, the balance between them and the interaction between them is crucial. And if you have a speaker that works well in a completely different room layout, setup, dampening than yours, then you will have night and day experiences. So that's why talking about speakers is a very, very tough thing. And let's go now, jump to the amp. Why that $50 amp didn't sound as good as a $20,000 tube amp? Because if you have a chance to take home both of those amps that the reviewer talked about, yes, you will notice that the $50 amp cranks out more bass, but it's some flabby, uncontrolled mass of boomy something. And when you listen to the 20K amp, it does not overdo bass, it does things properly, there's a lot of definition in the bass, but it does not give you bass for recordings that do not have bass. That's the thing with cheap amplifiers, is that they will make everything sound as if they had tons of bass, even if in the recording there's no bass. If you have a more refined amplifier, then you will hear great bass if there is great bass on the recording. If there's no such thing, they will not create it for you. So that's another aspect. And for the cables, we read the review of a person who reviewed very expensive cables against a cheapo Romex cable and preferred the Romex cable. That's because he reviewed it in a really basic setup, and when it's a really basic system, it has lots of errors, lots of problems. And cables, the better you go with cables, or I would say the more refined cables you choose, the more they will show you what your gear truly does to the sound. And if you are in the couple $100 category, or even in the $1,000 per gear category, you do not want to hear what they do to the sound. You need cables that really cut them down and really squeeze down the sound and keep it in safe boundaries, so you do not hear the nasties. If you put, like, let's say MIT cable on a Bose or something like that, then that will be an utterly unbearable experience. So just staying with the reviews, even if you navigate the review smart with being aware of these tips that you just have heard, then still, if you are in review binge mentality, it will spoil your fun, because in the reviews, each of the review is like a lollipop, and you are looking at the lollipop tree and, oh, this is shiny, oh, look at these speakers, look at that amp, I am so excited. You are getting more and more excited and pumped, and then you are ready to pull the trigger after you have read good reviews of a product from 5 different reviewers, and all of them say this is the real deal, and then you buy it, and you are expecting it, and it's already in the mail, almost at your doorstep, and then you open up YouTube again, and bingo, there's another review, a guy reviewing, and he's saying that he tested that baby that you are just expecting against something that's half the price, and the new thing that's half the price blew him away. So now your smile disappears, and even before you get a chance to test out your new baby, you are already crying and you are doubting yourself. So guys, this is how infants and newborns operate. That the adults are showing them the candles, the toys, food. Here's your milk, yeah. And then the baby is just trying to grab everything, the shiniest thing, the most exciting that he thinks or she thinks is the closest and more attainable and desired. But stop. You have to quit from behaving as an infant in audio and behave as an adult. And to do that, we'll just go back to ancient Greece, and that's where we take our first step from. And those who know and those who don't, these are the ruins of the Oracle of Delphi in Greece. And at that time, like 3,000 years ago, before people made a big decision, like your decision would be now, which amp to buy, they went to see the oracle to hear what she says about the issue. And at the door, we cannot see the door, it's gone, but above the door there were 2 words written. So these were the words that everyone could read. If you wanted to have the oracle speak to you, you needed to bring a gift for the temple, which was like a really, really high price gift. But if you didn't have money, you were just a nobody, you could still read the sign above the door. And that sign said, "Know thyself." And this is my advice I can give to you in your search for audio, that before you start reading and watching any reviews or you listen to any gear, first get to know what do you really want, because if you don't know what you want, you will never get it. Once again, if you don't know what you are looking for, you will never find it. So now we are going to find out what it is that you are specifically looking for. And after you know it at the end of this video, if you bear with me, then you will know what to look for. And those reviews, they will have meaning for you instead of being eye candy for infants. So step 0. Imagine your future in 10 or 20 years. What is it that you really want from audio? How do you see your future? So here, this is an uber cool setup with a huge Western electric horns, some really elaborate equipment, 2 turntables, and of course a nice Kung Fu tea setup in the front, so you can sit at this table and drink your tea, relax, and then just play your music and enjoy it. So I think this is a fantastic audio dream, and some person came up with this dream and realized it and made it reality. Now it's your job. Just go into your mind and really find out what you want. And now I will help you to find out what your desires are. So first, find out where you are coming from. When people go into audio, it is 3 different paths. So you can start on any of these 3 roads. They all lead to audio. So road number 1, or road A, this is where most people are on, and that's an obsession with sound. So you want perfect sound. There's another type of people, and they have just pure obsession about it. So it's not the sound that's most important about it, but it's a compulsion to do something, and this is something that people usually have, and they either like collect cards or collect stamps or collect records or collect audio gear, and you are an obsessive collector. And in many of these cases, I would say the chief obsession is being obsessed with measurements. So you are an analytical person, and you want the audio to be perfect for you. And you are not really interested in how it sounds, but you are interested that it measures perfect, and it's the absolute technological pinnacle of what we have today. And you want to find that, and you want to own that, period. It doesn't matter what others think how it sounds. And there's a third option, and this is when you are looking for music. I just want to listen to music. I don't care about sound, I don't care about what they put on the paper. I just want to connect to music. I'm a pianist, and I want to hear how other pianists perform the Rachmaninoff's pieces, because that's my favorite. And I want to hear that, and I want to hear it in as much realism as possible, because I want to learn from it, I want to connect to it. Or maybe you are not a musician, but you just love music, you just grew up with musicians in your family or listening to music, and you want to have a deep experience. So let's see what happens. If you are coming from the first, so you are a sound junkie, you want the absolute sound, like like the magazine Absolute Sound. And then what we think how we can reach our goal is to find the most expensive system, because that's what all the magazines, all the reviews say, that you go into the $1 million category and then that's it, you have done it. Yes, that's our goal, we made it. And just show here an example, a specimen of such a speaker. And then that's what you think, that you will be at the end of the road, you will have sonic bliss when you have $1 million. But I have to burst your bubble big time here, because when you are on the road, some people can start right here, that you can just cash, take out $1 million and get $1 million system, and then you take it home, and then you hear that someone has a $2 million system. Dang, then you have to go for that, and then someone has a even more expensive one, and so it never ends. And the problem is that what I have seen in high-end audio in the past 20 years ago, for $100,000 was pretty much the peak of an audio system. So if you paid $100,000, you could buy the most expensive system. And then it started climbing. It became 200,000, 3, 4, and now we are in the millions. So if you start now, by the time you get some experience in audio, it will be 10 years from now, and that time we will be in the 10 million plus most expensive system range. And if you live long enough to be still here on the planet in 2050, then we will reach by then $100 million systems. And as you see, that's not really an attainable goal for an average audiophile. So if you are a billionaire, fine, go for it. You can buy the most expensive stuff, but I got to burst your bubble still, because if you don't know how to set up a system, it doesn't matter how much it costs. Another system that was set up well, but maybe costs 50 times less, will beat it with better sound. So it's not just how much something costs, but how do you set it up? That's the real deal. So for example, here, this is just a commercial selling the speaker, and shows it in a perfect environment. But and then you think as a non-audiophile that, ooh, this is how it will look in my house, and I will have in this wonderful house perfect sound. But check this out, this is just a commercial. If you look around the floor, there's no speaker cable around, so this is not even hooked up. It was just placed there because the lights were the best there. And look what's behind it, glass wall, and here there's a corner and the hallway down there, and here there's a glass table. So if you would put a system around the speaker here and hook it up, it would sound pretty bad actually. And it's not because these speakers are bad, but because they are set up in a really, really bad way. And then you will hear maybe like 5% of what these speakers can do, or even less. And so that's why if you are a sound junkie, if you want perfect sound, you need to educate yourself. And I have friends who can afford really expensive gear, and believe it or not, they are not those people who just throw out cash from the money. They are extremely educated audiophiles, and they know more about audio than most people who have only $10,000 systems or less. So it's not just about money. So it's not just a $1 million system. but you have to be a $1 million audiophile to make it work. If on the inside your knowledge is not worth $1 million on audio, it will not sound good. So basically, you need to invest a lot into yourself, regardless of how much money you are prepared to spend on it. And the worst thing about sound junkies, I mean for sound junkies, is that the problem is that you can never achieve perfect sound, because there is no perfect sound. And when you reach a certain level, and above that level, what you can do is you can specialize. Like, for example, these speakers are specialized into to do something better than what is on the recording. And because of that, they can do some things in a really spectacular fashion, but they also fail at other things in spectacular fashion. So there is no such thing as absolute sound. So we had that hi-fi magazine, the absolute sound. Forget it. It's a flawed concept. There is no absolute sound. There's only relative sound. If you put together a system, it is specialized for your needs. And if it's not specialized for your needs, but some other needs, you will not be happy. So, to be able to put together a system that sounds perfect, you still need to know what are your preferences. You still need to know what kind of music you listen to. And I need to know that we need to take a little break now and continue from here.